Woohoo! Welcome to the show. It's 6:05 a.m. So do appreciate you being here. We've got so much to get to, and I am jumping right in. And we are going to have a blast because we're talking Bloomington City Council. We're going to do a little bit of a recap on BLN News. You can follow along with me if you'd like. I'm just going to go through public comment. Dan Brady, a mayoral candidate, he made comment that made a whole lot of sense at the Bloomington City Council meeting. He talked about the water. He talked about the purchase of additional equipment to address the water issue for 700. What was it? It was $755,000 over that, and I mean, the equipment's not going to be ready for a year, and I feel like they're going about this like they're flying by the seam of their pants here. Okay, so they're spending all this money, $15,000 to $20,000 a week, on this PAC system that should have never gone offline. They said it went offline like 20 years ago. They tried to reduce costs. We all know the Bloomington Public Library, the Aquatic Center, the downtown streetscape, they're not prioritizing basic infrastructure over those things. That's what it comes down to. So the city is paying for this treatment at a cost between $15,000 to $20,000 a week. There needs to be a more permanent solution. We're gonna get to that, but first, I want to talk about the rent control. This is kind of funny because they've been after this. There's like some sort of coalition on ISU's campus to lift the rent control ban. So there is probably legislation because Democrats in Springfield, right, probably have crafted legislation that seeks to lift this rent control ban. So you currently in the state of Illinois, you can't dictate how much landlords charge for rent. Okay. They want to institute this coalition that spoke. I don't know, a bunch of leftists showed up and they demanded that the council and candidates support this bill to lift the rent control ban. So they want a rent control. They want rent control to where landlords are told how much they can charge. If that happens in the state of Illinois, if landlords are told, hey, you can only charge this much, if you go past that, then you're in violation of the law. They're not going to hang around for very long. We already have a problem with Illinois landlords. Sticking around Illinois, and people don't want to buy here in the state. People don't want to invest in Illinois, and they're leaving, and they're going to be landlords somewhere else. They're going to do real estate somewhere else. Okay, so I want to play a little bit of public comment here from one of the leftists who showed up talking about rent control. That is not the solution here. And the solution, they really want BlackRock. Here's what the Democrats want. And I talked about this a little bit yesterday. BlackRock and these large global investment companies, they want them to come in and build these skyscraper multifamily housing. And they want those guys to benefit, those large corporate landlords. And, they don't care if they do like a little bit of rent control because they're going to have thousands upon thousands of people in their shoebox apartments. Okay. And what we've done in the state of Illinois, we've attacked developers, private developers, told them how to develop in our communities. There is a demand for single family housing. There is a demand for all types of housing, but single family housing, they're trying to just eliminate. So they're trying to do this multifamily housing. And to be frank with you, a lot of people have children, 1 kid, 2 kids. You can't fit them in a shoebox apartment stacked on top of each other. Okay. Now, the whole thing is to get BlackRock to build these huge apartment complexes. Governor J.B. Pritzker, he's buddies with BlackRock. Why? Because BlackRock is a big investor in the Tides Foundation, which is backed by George Soros and Governor J.B. Pritzker's family. That's not the solution here. We need to lift the regulation. We need to cut the red tape. We need to stop handcuffing our private developers. Let them come in and let them do what they do best, and that's develop the land and build houses. Okay. And build a lot of them because there's a demand and there's a supply issue. Okay. And we need to make it more affordable to build. So that means, less taxation. That means less spending at a government level, which causes inflation. Okay. We need to ensure that our tariffs on Canada are there, and that they're doing trade fairly and they're not violating their trade agreement when it comes to the lumber. Okay, they're dumping their government subsidized lumber and they're violating our trade agreements. We need to make sure that that's happening where Canada is complying with the trade agreement. And there's so many different things, and all of what these leftist policies are, they're the ones who are creating this housing crisis. Okay, and the reason why is because they want to implement their solution, and their solution is to have their buddies come in, BlackRock, and build these skyscraper apartment buildings. And that's what and they want to, impose rent control and get rid of the competition, the small landlords, okay, because BlackRock's fine with rent control because they're going to have thousands upon thousands of people in these big skyscraper apartments. They don't mind the rent control. They're just trying to eliminate the competition for BlackRock and phasing out these smaller landlords because these smaller landlords or these, developers, they're going to leave. They're going to go to a state. They're going to go somewhere where real estate isn't fixed for the big corporations like BlackRock. Okay, so let's take a listen to this public comment. Here we go. This was at the Bloomington City Council meeting. Take a listen.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Mangles. As some of you know, I was at a previous council meeting to discuss rent in Illinois, and I'm standing here again in solidarity with the Lift the Ban coalition, with Sunny and Georgine here has already spoken to you, and I wanted to contribute my story as well. I have a master's degree in communication from Illinois State University. I recently graduated in August. I have about 3 to 4 jobs, several of them side hustles, several of them instructor positions at universities in the area. And I'm contributing most of my income to rent. A lot of it is going to rent and food at this point. And I start to question why I'm not just an exception. Me and my communities are feeling this pressure, this immense pressure to pay.
Okay, sorry. Master's in communication. She says, "Me and my communities." It's my communities and I. But sorry, I had to jump in and fix the grammar. I'm not a grammar Nazi by any means, but you get up there, you tout your master's in communication. You kind of got to sound the part, right? You got to kind of play that part. Okay.
Rent every single month, to not get evicted, to not end up on the streets, and we're very, very stressed and we're very nervous. And I don't think that anyone can live healthily under those kinds of pressures and under that kind of stress. And it's not just people who aren't able to find employment. It's people who are well employed, overemployed, arguably, who are struggling to pay the rent. So I ask you, if people like myself who have full master's degrees, all their credentials, and we've been told our whole lives that you will be successful. If you get a master's degree, you will be successful, and you just have to get through this to be able to afford living again, and then to end up right back where we were as a student, not able to afford rent, hardly able to afford food. It becomes very demoralizing. And so I know that all of you as council members, you joined this council to be able to do some good. And so I'm asking you to stand in solidarity with renters to support the Lift the Ban Act, which is HB 3687. And it's very important to us that you do so because, again, many of us who are well employed are struggling with the rent right now.
Okay. So let's unpack some of that. I don't know who told you that you're going to be set for life if you get a degree, especially a degree that's not an applied degree. So, for example, you've got an entire population in this country where they go to school and they don't want to leave. Okay, so the ISU master's degree in communication, she got a degree in communication. It's like getting a degree in English. It's like getting a degree in physics or mathematics. It's really tough to find a job when you don't get a degree that is applicable to the real world. Okay, so for people in physics, mathematics, getting a master's degree in that, your only options really are to go teach or to do research on the taxpayer's dime. Okay, engineering, manufacturing, things like that. Those are applicable degrees, and there's more jobs for you in that space. Okay, so for example, I didn't get a degree in communications. Why? Because I got a degree in journalism, because it's a more applicable degree. There's more jobs. I went into this knowing the pay. I knew I was going to get paid less and less money going into this field. Than I was before I went to school. I was waitressing, and I made more waitressing than I do in journalism, like 100%. Okay, waitressing. I used to waitress in Joliet at a sports bar. Tons of money. Okay, I made more money than before the ISU degree. Okay, I don't know. And my parents always told me, you can go get the degree, and they were very, very. They were very honest with me. They said, hey, go get the degree, but there's other jobs out there that are going to pay you more without the degree, and I don't know if her parents or whoever is telling her that she's going to be set for life with a communications degree. Like I said, if you're going to get a degree, you definitely got to get a degree that applies to the real world. Journalism, there's actual real jobs. When you get a degree in communications, you've limited yourself quite a bit. Same with those who pursue mathematics, physics. You've limited yourself in that you can only kind of get research degrees or research jobs or professor type jobs. Okay, professor or teacher type jobs. So even then, you probably got to go and get a teaching certificate of some kind. Okay, if you wanted to teach high school or something like that, and you got to go and take tests and things like that in order to become a teacher. So it's a dumb degree. I hate to say it, and I don't know who told you to go get it and said that you're going to make a ton of money. There's I don't know what kind of job she's got. She says like 4 or 5 of them, and that's sad. But I'm telling you right now, the rent is so bad because of the taxation, the government spending so much money, like handcuffing our private developers, not allowing them to develop the land. And look at, the demand. They know the business. Okay, single family housing, duplexes, things like that. What they really want is to fix the system. They want to fix the system to where the big companies like BlackRock and these huge developers, corporate developers, they can global investment companies can come in and build these skyscraper apartments that only will house you. Okay, and quite frankly, one, that's immoral. Two, it's that's what's raising your rent right now. That's why it's so costly, because they're creating the problem because they want a solution, a specific solution, and nobody really wants that solution, because I don't know if this woman has children, but most people have more than one individual in their family, okay, and want to house more than one individual, okay, whether it's a spouse, or children, a couple of children, like that is the demand. Okay. And people are suffering because the state of Illinois is trying to fix it in BlackRock. BlackRock is just an example. There's several of these different corporate type landlords. They're trying to fix this state to make it profitable for those guys, and they're trying to phase out these smaller landlords by making it harder for them to operate in the state. Therefore, if it's harder for them to operate in the state with all of these different regulations, they have to increase rent in order to comply with a lot of these regulations and red tape. All right, I got to take a quick break, but we're going to come back to Dan Brady. We're kind of unpacking the Bloomington City Council meeting today, and then we're going to shift gears. I want to talk a little bit about Dylan Mulvaney declaring that he, she, they, I don't know. I'm not trying to be a jackwagon because I don't know his pronouns. It's just hard to tell, because at one point I think he went by they, and now I'm just going to say his, her, they. He declares that he's a woman, despite what his passport says. Okay. So we're going to get to that and a few other stories this morning on Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Dan Brady, he's next. He went to the Bloomington City Council meeting and raised a fantastic point that their solutions to this problem, the water issue, it's going to get costly pretty quick. There needs to be a permanent fix. That's pretty much what Dan said at the meeting. He just says, hey, you kind of got rid of this bidding process for this equipment. That was probably not a great move financially. So we're going to play his comment here next on Conservative Cat. Hey, good morning, Tim. I appreciate you being here this morning. Go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. So yeah, I mean, this woman, there were several other people who talked about this, rent control. That is not the solution. You're only scratching the back of your global investors like BlackRock. There's a few other ones. I talked about how BlackRock was awarded the Secure Choice Program as the asset manager. They're the asset managers of that program. And they're getting money from people being forced into retirement here in the state. Okay, you're automatically enrolled in retirement. If you're an Illinoisan, you have to opt out of the Secure Choice Program. BlackRock, they then, as an asset manager, they're making buco bucks off of this because, they make you a little bit of money, right? And they invest. It's like a mutual fund, right? They'll invest. They'll grow your retirement. But they take a portion of that growth. Okay, so they get some of that money, but then also they can, hey, BlackRock wants to build a brand new apartment building. They can borrow against your money, okay, that they've got and they're the managers of. Okay, so they can get loans for these big skyscraper type apartments. And it's phasing out the little guy. They have attacked landlords. I've seen it with crazy legislation, like you can't force somebody, a tenant, to write you a check. You have to use some sort of like portal or like a digital process like Zelle, because like the processing fees and things like that, like e-checks, if you do ACH and things like that, there's a hard cost for you as a landlord to process payments, okay? And you have to charge fees to process payments if you're going to do an ACH, if you're going to do automatic payments out of somebody's account. You have to charge a processing fee, okay? Otherwise, you're going to eat that cost. Otherwise, it's just going to go into the rent, right? But they've said that landlords can't charge fees to process payments, okay? But they said, like, you have to take Zelle or you have to take check. But or cash. You run the risk then of checks. Sorry, that said they're forcing landlords to either not charge for the processing fees, which inevitably they will. It's going to be in the form of rent. Okay, so this woman, she's crying about raising rent. It's because Democrats are forcing these small landlords. Okay, and this is just one example. There's thousands of examples of landlords being handcuffed and being regulated, red tape. But this is just one example. They say that landlords can't charge a fee for processing payment, like a direct deposit or like a ACH, direct withdrawal, things like that. And that is a hard cost. Okay, things like this just don't happen magically, and I think that the left doesn't understand that. If you're a landlord, you have to process that payment, and then you have to hire a company to process that payment, and the company charges you to process payments. So you have to charge a small fee in order to process payments that way. Otherwise, you need a check, right? And that doesn't cost anything. You just go to the bank or cash or Venmo, okay, to avoid the fee. And they're forcing landlords to either do that or not charge the fee, okay? So then you run the risk of counterfeit checks. You run the risk of people, avoiding payment when, whereas you could have like a rent portal and they and you force them to pay through that. They have to pay a fee as well. But it is secure that you are going to either get your payment or you're not. Okay. Now they could give you a check and then it could be a counterfeit. It could be a fake check. They could give you cash or fake bills, right? Venmo, you can, and I've done it before on accident, right? Where you Venmo somebody and it doesn't process. It says that it processes, but then, you're out of luck as the landlord if it doesn't process all the way, Venmo. So There is so much red tape on our small landlords, and it's by design. They want to create the problem, high rent, and they want to come in with their solution, which is BlackRock and these big global investors, to build these skyscraper of apartment buildings that nobody truly wants. Number one. Number two, they want to scratch the buddy of their corporate friends, their corporate landlord friends. And that's not right, because you, as a small landlord, or if you're a small landlord, know a small landlord, you have just a right to operate in the state just as anybody else. And you're trying to pursue happiness. You're trying to make a living in real estate, and they're making it impossible for you. Why? Because they have their preferred choice, and their preferred choice is BlackRock and other, global investment companies that, do these multifamily housing type things. So we're going to get to Dan Brady here next. Good morning. Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Yes, landlords are handcuffed in this state, in the state of Illinois, and this is why rents go up. And this is just one example I was sharing with you on the stream. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. This ISU Master's Communication woman, she went up there and complained about rent, and she wants to make it to where landlords are forced to set a certain rent. Okay, so like they want to tell landlords how much they can charge. After this bill passes, if this bill were to pass, okay, this lift on the rent control ban, if this legislation were to pass out of Springfield, afterwards, what do they think is going to happen? Really, because what's going to wind up happening is the landlords, they're not going to like that you told them how much they can charge, and they're going to leave. And that is exactly what the left wants. They want the small landlords to leave. They want these private developers to be handcuffed because they want BlackRock, your big corporate landlords with these big, huge skyscraper type apartment buildings to come in. And they don't care about the rent controls for BlackRock. Because BlackRock can do that if they've got a billion apartments, right? It's not going to hurt them too much. And it's all about Governor J.B. Pritzker and his best friends. Okay, BlackRock, there's a global investment company that has an interest in the Tides Foundation, which is his family's foundation. Him and George Soros, they back the Tides Foundation. And this is a thank you to BlackRock for supporting his foundation, okay, or his family's foundation. So this lady, she says that she can't afford rent. Don't know who told you that a master's in communication degree was going to set you up for life. It's kind of silly, especially when, teachers do. They do this all the time. They get a degree in teaching, and then they're like, I'm not paid enough. Did you not look up like the salaries before? Did you not look up what kind of jobs you could get with a master's in communication? I'll tell you, it's just professors and teachers, okay? Because it's not an applicable, it's not a real world degree, okay? Same thing with like physics, mathematics. You can get a degree in that stuff. It's awesome, but you've limited yourself to research and being a professor. And there's a faction there's a population in this country, I really do believe that they just want to do that, okay? They don't really want to go out there in the real world and make something. They just want to study it and talk about it, okay? They don't want to do anything, okay? Maybe it's laziness. I don't know exactly what it is. Or they think they're better than you, and they're too good for jobs like that. But, there's engineering would be the degree for physics or mathematics. Like, go into something like that. Go into the medical field, right? That is an applicable degree. There's tons of jobs in the medical field, right? If you like science, math, whatever, biology, anatomy, why would you get a degree in biology? Why would you get a degree in anatomy? Why would you get a degree in communications? What are you going to do with that communications degree? Go get a degree in journalism. Go get a degree in something applicable in communications marketing. Okay, public relations. This is like, I just don't understand who was your parent? Who told you that it would be a smart idea to go get a degree in communications? It's dumb. Okay, number one. Number two, I wanted to talk about the landlords because there is a bill in the state of Illinois, or there's law in the state of Illinois, and this is just an example. There's thousands of laws like this for landlords, and it's all by design. The left wants to oust the small landlords, and they want to create a problem where these landlords are forced to raise rent in order to deal with the regulation. And then they want to come up with their solution. And the solution is, of course, BlackRock and other major corporate landlords. And they want to scratch their back. They want to make sure that they're the only ones operating in the real estate space in the state of Illinois. That's what's going on. So, for example, landlords now in the state of Illinois, this was a recent law, they've got to either collect checks, like checkbook checks for rent, Venmo, cash. Okay, they can only do that kind of stuff, or they can do direct withdrawal, ACH processing, payment processing, credit cards, things like that. But they can't charge a fee for it. Okay, so that what people don't the left doesn't get that if you're a landlord, you have to pay a company in order to process the payment. You're not well versed in processing payments. You can't do that yourself. The bank has to do that, right? The banks, the credit card companies, they have to do that. There is a infrastructure that is needed that you have to pay for as a landlord in order to process payments in that way. Okay, so that's why landlords charge a fee. The state of Illinois said, hey, you can't charge the fees anymore. Okay, well, the landlord is not going to eat that cost. Why? Because he has a family, he has children, he's got a dog that needs dog food, okay? He needs to pay his mortgage or rent or whatever, or multiple mortgages. He needs to pay his bills. Okay, so he's not going to just eat that cost. He's going to add it to the rent. This is why rents keep going up. It's because of the regulations, and the regulation is done on purpose because they want to have landlords, small landlords, exit the state, and in comes BlackRock, these preferred landlords. They want them to come in and be the solution to the problem they created. Let's get to Dan Brady. I said I would get to Dan Brady. I want to get to Dan Brady because this is good. This is about the water. So he made public comment at the Bloomington City Council meeting, and he talked about the purchase of this equipment to kind of remedy this water situation, this water problem. This is not a situation. This is not an issue. This is water that tastes bad and smells bad, and you're bathing your kids in it. You're washing your hair with it. You're drinking it, and it's a big, big problem. Okay, so at the Bloomington City Council meeting, Dan Brady made a public comment. Now, he talked about this bidding process. And they purchased this equipment for $755,000 over at. Take a listen.
Thank you. Regarding the matter that's before you this evening with the Bloomington water issue and the purchase of a packed feed system and waiving of the formal bid process for this purchase, obviously should be taken with serious consideration. Not only is the price of $755,000 approximately large price tag, the annual cost of the operating expense of $500 to $100 million is even more concerning, as well as other recent purchases of quantitative equipment that we heard about a couple months ago. I certainly do not have the insight into the issue as Director of Water, Mr. Andrews, does. I only have the insight of listening to hundreds of Bloomington residents of their opinions on the matter, right or wrong. And the purchase of this is the answer? I hope so. Wonderful. If it's not, and even more concerning, will be the time frame and the effects that this may or may not have on our water taste, smell, and clarity. I would suggest that seeking the visual inspection of the pumping stations at Lake Bloomington and Lake Evergreen be carried out as soon as possible with more requests for expertise help. That could be the quickest, most accurate, and cost-effective solution to the problem for Bloomington's citizens and the businesses affected. Thank you very much.
Wow. So that's Dan Brady. The city is paying right now for the powder activated carbon treatment. Now, this went offline 20 plus years ago, something like that, to reduce cost. Don't know why they stopped treating the water. Weird. Oh yeah, it was to pay for the Bloomington Public Library, where the number of visitors probably has been dwindling for a decade. Because the internet. But they expanded the Bloomington Public Library. They did the Aquatic Center, in the state of Illinois, where, I don't know, it's only warm 2 months out of the year, and you can usually only go to the Aquatic Center a couple of months, and even then, the water smells bad. So, and then, the downtown Bloomington streetscape, where you're going to build a bunch of fancy sidewalks. So he's so right here, because what he's saying here, and he's a good politician. He didn't come out right and say it. I'll say it for you, Dan. Really what he's saying here is, this seems like a fly by the seam of your pants kind of fix. They're purchasing additional equipment. They're spending right now $15,000 to $20,000 a week based on old test results for this powder activated carbon treatment. And it seems like there's got to be a permanent solution out there that is more cost effective. Okay, there's got to be something. Whether that's digging more wells. From what I understand, I don't know if they've got any wells. I thought that they dug wells. There was talks about digging wells. I've got to take a quick break, but we're going to come back because I got more on the water here next. And then I want to get to proposed homeschooling mandates in the state of Illinois. That's facing strong opposition. Homeschoolers, homeschooling families, they are lobbying their government against this measure. They've introduced measures that make it to where families have to report to the public school if they're going to be homeschooling or not, which is just ridiculous. Homeschooling is not a problem in the state of Illinois. We got a lot of problems. Homeschooling ain't one. I'll be right back. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel, please. And I do want to talk about this. This is going to be really interesting. In 2019, now I don't know if they've done anything with this this drilling. Okay, so in 2019 in BLN News, they dug this up. There were discussions about drilling wells west of the city. Okay, this was public comment from 2019. And, the question remains, did Bloomington ever drill a well? Okay, so this is Neil Uphoff. He was representing his father, Ken Uphoff, at the time in 2019. And his family wanted to buy the land back that was taken to him. It's the Mackinac River Basin. Okay, it was taken from him via eminent domain, so the city could drill wells. Now, the question remains, did they drill wells? Is the basin being used right now? Is it not being used? Does Neil, need to sue? Because if they took it via eminent domain and they never put wells in, when the water gets low, that was the purpose of the Mackinac River Basin being taken via eminent domain. When the water gets low, like we're experiencing right now with the lake, which is just so dumb. Lake water is dumb. Like I've told you several times, we should just switch over to groundwater and drill some wells, which I thought that we've drilled a couple of wells, but I don't know whatever happened to this situation. There's got to be a permanent fix. I'm not the water director. It's not my job to know what the city has done and is doing, but there has to be a permanent fix, because most municipalities, they're not on lake source water. Okay, it's kind of dated. Some municipalities are. I'm not going to say, but I would say, a majority of municipalities, they've switched over to groundwater. Why? Because it's more sustainable. There's a natural filtration process that happens. The water comes down from the sky via rain, and there's a natural filtration process with the rocks and things like that, and then you can treat the water. So yeah, I don't know if they're using the Mackinac River Basin, because the intent of, taking this via eminent domain was to use it when the lake water got low, and that's where we're at right now. So I don't know if they've drilled a well or not. From what I understand, maybe they haven't, because the lake water's very low right now, and we're tasting the nastiness and seeing like the flakes in the water, right? The fuzziness of the water. So I wonder if this basin is actually being used, and if Neil Uphoff and his father, Ken, I wonder if they have some sort of lawsuit, because if the city took this via eminent domain and they're not actually using it for the purpose it was designed for, this river basin, then that's bogus. They literally took land from people for no reason. So yeah, we're going to get to that conversation that happened in 2019, and I've been talking about Cody Hendricks, Mboka Mwambwe, Terry Renner, everybody pretty much since 20 years ago, since they took the PAC system offline. They have neglected their duties to ensure that the basic infrastructure is up to snuff. You know what I mean? So, this is Mayor Terry Renner. They've talked about drilling wells when he was in office. Forgive me, I wasn't really around when Terry Renner was mayor. I don't even really recall this. I don't think I was even in town when in 2019 I was. Yeah, I was in town. I just got into town in 2019. So Terry Renner in this clip, he's faced with this public comment from Neil Uphoff about the basin. So we're going to talk about that. The what is it called? The river basin, Mackinac River Basin, and that was taken via eminent domain. And they drilled wells, and the basin was no longer needed. Maybe it is needed, obviously, and I don't know if they've got the basin, the river basin, in use to address the low lake source water, okay? Because that's what the whole purpose of the river basin was, to acquire that via eminent domain. Now they drilled new wells, and back then he wanted to buy the land. I don't know if he ever got it back, but we're going to take a listen to that public comment as well. You guys are really going to like that. When we come back, we are also going to be talking about Dylan Mulvaney and the proposed homeschooling mandates. I also want to talk about the Illinois legislators going insane over Donald Trump tariffs. Donald Trump tariffs saved Stellantis, okay? Belvedere, Illinois, Stellantis, 2,000 plus jobs, okay, coming back to the state of Illinois. That was because of Trump, pretty much, how do I say this, playing 12-dimensional chess and being hard with our, American companies, with our companies, and saying, hey, you've got this Brazil plant. I'm going to tariff the hell out of you if you don't open up Stellantis, right? I don't know what the conversation was. He was meeting with the CEO for a few days. Donald Trump was Stellantis. But so far, we've already seen the tariff and Donald Trump working on behalf of Americans. And we've already seen great things happen in Illinois because of his leadership, okay? And the Illinois lawmakers like Kate Stewart, Democrat from Edwardsville, she's saying that Donald Trump's actions are rattling the stock market and hurting Illinois families. Like, give me a break. We're going to be back. Subscribe to the channel. Here we go. Okay. Good morning. Hey, I appreciate you being here this morning. We're talking all things Bloomington City Council meeting. Earlier in the show, we talked about rent control. They want to tell landlords how much they can charge. If you do that, you're going to cause all of the landlords to flee from the state of Illinois. And that's exactly what the Democrats want, because in comes BlackRock and these corporate landlords, and they love those guys because they're their buddies, because they donate to their foundations. Okay, so that is that's what's going on, and that's why rent is so high right now, is because the constant regulations these smaller landlords face, because Illinois is trying to bully them out of the state. Okay, they are creating the problem because they want their solution, which would be the BlackRock Global Investment Companies creating these skyscrapers of apartment buildings, shoebox apartments, and there's not even really a demand for that. So it's just going to get even worse. Homelessness is going to get even worse. There's going to be families out begging on the street corners because you can't fit a family of 4 in a shoebox apartment. Okay, so we were also talking about Dan Brady made a public comment, raised a great point. Hey, there's additional equipment that you kind of waived the bidding process for, $755,000 over that. that's a bit pricey. I don't know if this is, good financial. I don't know if you're taking good financial steps here, because now you're paying $20,000 a week, based on old test results, by the way, to treat the water with this powder activated carbon. It's getting costly because you're flying by the seam of your pants. Somebody needs to say, hey, here's the permanent solution. Now, on BLN News, author Diane Benjamin, she brings this up. And now I didn't move here until 2019. About that, I didn't move here to Bloomington. And I didn't know. So I guess Bloomington, they drilled some wells under an aquifer. Neil Uphoff in 2019, he was representing his father, Ken. Okay. And his family, at that public comment, during that public comment in 2019, when Mayor Terry Renner was there, he was saying he wanted to buy the land back. Okay, so via eminent domain, the government came in and took the Mackinac River Basin away from this family, okay, because of the water situation. Now, the basin, the whole purpose of the basin is when the lake water gets low, the basin kicks in. Now, back in 2019, he was arguing, well, you guys already drilled wells, so give us the Mackinac River Basin back because you drilled these wells. Okay, so there's no need for you to have the basin as well. It's not needed. It's not in use. I'm curious if it is in use, the Mackinac River Basin today, because the whole purpose, like I said, via the eminent domain for the Mackinac River Basin was so that way if the lake water got low, the basin would step in. Okay, so I don't know if this family's still around. If you're listening, 309-451-9299. Love to talk with you about what happened with your river basin here and with this land, if you ever bought it back. And if they're using the Mackinac River Basin for what it was intended for, which was when the lake water got low, we're in that situation today. That's why your water tastes bad. The only solution right now would be a lot of rain, which severe weather is coming on Friday, by the way. So I'm thinking there's going to be a little bit of rain. But lots of rain is the only quick fix to this, okay? Or is the Mackinac River Basin working, and is that the fix to it? And if it's not working, or if it's not up and running, that's a problem because they took away this land via eminent domain from this family. They should be using it. So take a listen to this. Here we go. This is in 2019. This is the public comment, and they were having discussions
Howdy.
about Bloomington.
I'm here on behalf of my father, Ken Uphoff. This is in regards to the Mackinac River pumping basin. Dad would like to buy the land back. The following is a statement from Dad. There is only one purpose for the land in the basin, emergency water supply. There is only one purpose for the sellback provision, the resale to be made when the emergency no longer existed. I was not in the negotiation sessions. Mr. Fleming, my lawyer, was taking care of that. The words only one purpose and emergency were not included because I felt they were not necessary due to the oral agreement between myself and the city water department. Mayor Smart was quoted in the Sunday Telegraph article that he didn't remember the word emergency or one purpose stated, and makes me wonder if he wasn't in the negotiating sessions and just received updates as I did. That's the end of Dad's statement. So back in '89, going through that drought, I can see why the city wanted to do this. But when the city raised the level of the dam 5 feet, that should have negated the emergency need right there because of the higher volume. Now the city has drilled 2 wells in the St. Peter's aquifer for blending.
Okay, so the city at this point has drilled 2 wells in the St. Peter's aquifer. Okay, and he's arguing that the drilling of these wells negate or it means that there is no emergency anymore, and the Mackinac River Basin should go back to his dad.
Purposes, but there's no limit to when you can pump from those wells as far as I know. The pumping basin can only be used when the level of the water in both lakes combined are down 8 feet and the level of the Mackinac is at a certain height. The problem there is when the lakes are low, so is the Mackinac, making pumping difficult. In the last 2 years, I have been told that the water department was able to pump from the basin for 1 day in 2 years. I've been told that the basin can pump 1 million gallons of water a day. The aquifer pumps can pump 1 million gallons of water per day per well. If those numbers are correct, if the city ran those 2 wells every day for 2 years, it would pull 1.4 billion gallons less water out of the lakes. Using 1.4 billion gallons less far outweighs maybe getting 1 million gallons if the conditions are right. I've also been told that the city is looking at another 6 wells in the St. Peter's aquifer. That would be 5.8 billion gallons less out of the lakes in those 2 years. This is the family farm where my dad was born. The city took half that farm through eminent domain when they built the Lake Evergreen in the late 60s. Then in '89, the city split the last 100 acres in 2 halves when they bought this 11-acre tract. Dad would like to have the farm put back in one piece. My sons and I agree with him. The need for the pumping basin is long past now that the level of the lake is higher and you have wells in the St. Peter's aquifer. My grandfather bought the land in 1918. It has been in the family for over 100 years.
Okay, I gotta take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, go ahead and smash that like button. Share this out with your friends. Yes, so he continues here a little bit, and
My sons and my desire is to have that in the family another 100 years. The provision to buy the land back was included in the deed because it was meant for the family to be able to buy the land back once the emergency need was over. That time has come. We are asking you to contact the water department and ask them to start negotiations for the resale of the basin land back to the Uphoff family, as it's stated in the provision.
Thank you. Thank you. Regina Nolan.
okay. So, I don't know if they're pumping out of the Mackinac River Basin now because the lake water is so low. I have no idea. But like he said, you know, the Mackinac River Basin, when the lakes get low, so does the basin. And they have these wells in the St. Petersburg, I think it was, aquifer. And he said that there's plans to do like 6 more wells in this aquifer. So I don't know. There's got to be a permanent fix here. I think that drilling new wells, this is the way to go. The lake source water, it's kind of dumb, like I said. And I'm curious whatever happened to this family's property, because, and if they're using the Mackinac River Basin right now for this issue, because like he said, the Mackinac River Basin, I don't know if they can even pump out of that because the lakes are low right now. That's why you're tasting the foul taste and the smell and the odor and things like that. That's like lake water, right? But they're doing filtration systems in the PAC system and they're trying to get it fixed, and I understand that. But there's got to be a permanent solution. Now, is that more wells in the aquifer? Like they had planned to do. I don't think that there's 6. And if there is, then maybe you need more. Okay, let's switch it from the lake source water to the drilling new wells. Okay, that's the whole point I'm trying to make here. And in 2019, this was really interesting. They took the government took away this property from this family in order to address the emergency water supply. And to address the water issue when the lakes are low. The river basin, the Mackinac River Basin, when the lakes are low, that's low as well. So how much can you really pump out of that basin anyway when there's an emergency? Number 2, it sounds like we need to drill more wells out of this aquifer. Okay, that's what it sounds like that they were going to and maybe never did. Let's get back to it. Here we go. Good morning. Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat Cities 92.9. Before I took the break, I was telling you a little bit about this Neil Uphoff in 2019, and I played some public comment. It was a little scratchy. It's from 2019. It was a little scratchy, but what he said here was, hey, they took the Mackinac River Basin from my father by eminent domain for emergency purposes when the lake gets low. But he also said that, hey, the Mackinac River Basin, when the lake gets low, that gets low, and you can't really pump out of it anyway. So it's not really usable anyway in an emergency situation. We want to buy the land back. I don't know if they're using the Mackinac River Basin right now to address the water. That's what this is. It's a water shortage kind of because the lakes are so low. That's why you're getting the bad taste and the odor. But he talked about how, there's wells drilled under an aquifer. and they had 2 wells at the time in 2019, and there was plans, I don't know if those plans ever came to fruition, to drill even more. So 6 wells, create 6 more wells. And I think that that is the permanent solution here. Doing this fly by the seat of your pants kind of thing, where you're purchasing all this additional equipment, you're treating the water at $15,000-$20,000 a week. You're testing the water, you're basic, and you're going off of the old test results, by the way, but you're spending that thousands of dollars a week to treat the water with the powder activated carbon. There needs to be a permanent solution, and there needs to be a more cost effective solution, I believe. And it's really interesting, if this Mackinac River Basin is online, if they're using it, if they can use it because the lakes are low, maybe the basin is low as well, and they can't really use it anyway. Either way, I think the family deserves their land back, okay? Because it was taken away from them because, hey, we need to use it for emergency water and for water shortages when the lakes get low. We need the basin, and he said, look, you guys have new wells. Okay, and you're going to be drilling 6 more. Maybe they got to drill 6 more. Maybe they got to drill, right? And let's shift from the lake source water. Okay, that's what I'm saying. There needs to be a permanent fix, because this whole flying by the seat of your pants thing with the or $755,000 piece of equipment, then the $15,000 to $20,000 a week to treat the water, it's getting to be expensive. Okay, and I'm starting to see this. So how like you do these like quick fixes around the house, and that can start to rack up. Okay, the cost if you just do these quick fixes around the house. And you don't actually fix the problem, which is that the lake source is not reliable. The lake source water is just not reliable. It's not sustainable when you have to rely on the level of the lakes. Okay, and if the level of the lakes gets too low, the filtration gets bad. You have to do more filtration, put more filters online. And with groundwater, with the drilling, the groundwater, there's like, and you got the wells, there's natural filtration that happens because it passes through rocks and things like that. So you wouldn't need as many filters, so therefore more cost effective. So I mean, I'm not the water director. Haven't served in Bloomington government, so I really don't know what has been done. All I know is that there has to be a permanent solution, and what I'm seeing right now looks like quick fixes, and quick fixes start to rack up over time. I want to get to a few things here in the 7 o'clock hour. I want to talk about Dylan Mulvaney. He's declaring himself a woman despite what his passport says. Hilarious. I also want to talk about how these proposed homeschooling mandates in Illinois, they're facing these mandates, strong opposition. The homeschooling is not a problem in Illinois. We got tons of problems. Homeschooling is not one. Homeschooled kids, they do much, much better than the kids in the public school system. Go check out Bloomington District 87, Unit 5. The kids can't read at grade level, less than half of them. I think it's like 30, maybe 40% of kids can read at grade level. It's gone up slightly, but that's also because they changed standards, by the way. So it's gone up slightly, but not really. The homeschooling is not a problem. And I don't know why you've got Democrat lawmakers out there trying to introduce House Bill 2827 to add all kinds of numerous requirements on homeschool families to report and to, sign over forms to school districts and curriculum mandates, what you need to be teaching your kids at homeschool. This is just starting to get ridiculous. Tara Costa Howard, she's a Democrat from Glen Ellen. She introduced the bill. It's called the Homeschool Act. I'm going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, go ahead and smash that like button. I'm going to be right back, and we are going to go ahead and take a quick break, but I'm going to go grab some quick coffee because I am needing some coffee this morning. We're going to grab quick coffee. I'm going to be right back. Subscribe to the channel, and we're going to come back, talk about the homeschoolers. And I promise I'm going to get to Dylan Mulvaney and how he says that he's a woman, even though his passport might say he's a man. Welcome to the Red Kingdom. Cities 92.9. We are going to have your severe weather coverage Friday night. We'll go live if we need to. I don't know how bad it's going to be. It's going to be Friday night into Saturday morning. That's the approximate time it could happen. Severe weather. So I think a cold front is coming in. I don't know. I'm not a meteorologist. I don't understand how any of this happens. It just happens every single year, and everybody freaks out, and then all the trees come down. But be safe. Prepare as much as you can for the storm. Don't go out and go driving around long distances, right? And if you've got trees that are halfway coming down, don't do what I did, okay? I knew that there was severe weather coming. We had a tree in the backyard, and, it was coming down anyway, but we never really, took the time to go take a chainsaw to it and cut it up before the storm came, and boom, tornado takes it down, takes out the entire fence, almost hits my neighbor's camper. And I was like, oh, no, please. It barely nicked, didn't even barely touch the camper. That was definitely God, okay? Because otherwise our insurances would have had to get involved, the home insurance, and it would have just been a nightmare. Insurance would have gone up, because we would have had to pay for the camper. But all that really happened was the chain link fence came down, portion of it. It was kind of a crappy fence anyway. Maybe it's an excuse to get a new fence. I don't know. It's been like that for a couple of years now since this big storm came through. But don't do what I did. Go out there, cut down some trees today. It's supposed to be nice. Cut down some trees that might need it. So that way you can avoid the most damage, right? That's my advice. So I want to get to a couple of your text messages. I like to do this. Hi, Kat. I disagree with you on your rent on the rent issue in Bloomington. There's a severe housing crisis, and landowners and property owners have gouged tenants, including myself. I don't doubt that your landowners and your property owners. I don't doubt that they're not raising the rent, okay? Because I see, and especially with the mobile homes, he says, I'm selling my mobile home to escape the high rent. Yes, so particularly mobile home, what I've seen via legislation coming out of Springfield, particularly mobile home owners, like people who own mobile home mobile home parks. I don't know if you're in a mobile home park. I grew up in a double wide, right? So particularly those property owners who charge rent and you're in a mobile home, and if you're in a mobile home park, they're attacked by the state far more than anybody else. And it's really bizarre, and I've never really quite understood that. Maybe it's because it's actual affordable housing, and it's a solution to the problem, mobile home parks. And the state doesn't want that, okay? The state wants BlackRock to come in, their preferred corporate landlords to come in and make all the money, okay? So they want to attack your mobile home landowners, your property owners, because they're the actual solution. Okay, I grew up in a double wide. It was plenty big enough for a family of four just trying to get by, right? And that is the solution, are mobile homes, and they're big enough to raise a family in a lot of the time, okay? And they're affordable, okay? So I love mobile home parks, 100%. I think that is the solution to the problem. It's cost effective for developers to develop the land. It doesn't cost that much, especially because we're in an inflationary time right now and taxes are really high. So it's hard to even develop land at this point. But they've gone after mobile homeowners or property owners specifically in the state. And here's an example. Okay, one piece of legislation, and this is just one. We're having severe weather here pretty soon, so this is kind of funny. They're mandating property owners put emergency radios in mobile homes. Okay, so if you own a mobile home and you're renting, okay, so you're a landlord, and maybe you just have a crappy landlord. Sometimes that happens. Maybe he's, so peeved off at the government, it's really soured his mood. But I've had those before in my life. Maybe you just need a new landlord if you think that he is purposefully gouging you. But something you need to know about your landlord is he is dealing with regulations from the state like nobody's business, okay? So they're forcing mobile homes to have emergency radios in them, Okay. I don't know how much a cost of an emergency radio is off the top of my head, but they can't charge you for the emergency radio, but they will. Okay. Because the landlords, they have a family, they got to put bread and butter on the table just like you. And they're not going to eat that cost. So what they're going to do is they're going to raise your rent. So the state is mandating all mobile home park owners, property owners, to put an emergency radio in there. And some of these aren't cheap. Okay. Now, I don't know. I'm looking right now on Amazon, an emergency radio is $35. Okay. So they're going to raise your rent by $35 this year. Okay. That's what happens. And, I understand you disagree with me. So appreciate that you tune in and listen. Love the text message. Just try to go in this with an open mind and understand that the landlord is not your enemy. It's the state. It's the government that's forcing your landlord to raise your rent like this because they're telling them, hey, you have to put an emergency radio. Like, give me a break. Everybody's got a cell phone. And, if you really want an emergency radio in your home, go buy it yourself. If that's really what you want, don't force me via a mandate as a landlord to put it in my mobile home. Like, this is kind of insane. So that's why I think the rent is going up. It's a lot of these just nickel and diming the landlords. And like I said, that one bill where it's law now, where they're making it to where you can't charge a processing fee to process like an ACH or a credit card, debit card, whatever. And that takes an infrastructure. Okay. You can't process that as a landlord. That's not your expertise. You're not into the banking system. Okay. So you have to outsource that to a company who will process payments for you, and you have to pay for that company to process payments for you. And what, you're not supposed to charge a fee to the tenant? Well, guess what? The landlord is going to charge you a fee. It's by raising your rents. Okay, that's what's going to wind up happening. So I gotta talk about this. We're gonna shift gears here, but I really do. I also got another text. Our family cat has lived here since the early 1900s as well. We were talking about Neil Upoff in 2019, talking about how his family's river basin, the Mackinac River Basin, was taken via eminent domain in order to address the lake source water. When it gets low, they pump from the river basin. I don't know if they're doing that, but he made an argument back in 2019. Hey, you guys just drilled new wells under the St. Peter's aquifer, and there's really no need for you guys to have this basin anymore. Can we have it back? Okay, so he made this argument back in 2019. I'm curious if they drilled new wells, because there was also, talk of 6 more wells going underneath the aquifer, the St. Peter's aquifer. But we talked about that, and his family was around since the early 1900s. That's awesome. The fact that your family has been in Bloomington for that long. I'm sorry, number one, because for the last 30 years, there's been Democrat mayors and councils, and they've made your life a living hell in that they keep paying for things like pools and aquatic centers and libraries and downtown Bloomington sidewalks, fancy sidewalks. So, yeah, I feel bad for you, but also it's a wonderful place. I really do. I wish we had just a change. And there is an election coming up April 1st. And maybe, who knows, maybe there will be some significant changes on the Bloomington City Council and the mayor. Maybe things will start to change for the better. I don't know. All right, let's talk a little bit about homeschooling, because there's this Homeschool Act that's been introduced via the House Bill 2827. Thousands of people have filed witness slips in opposition of this. School districts, they want school districts to obtain a form from you if you're a homeschool family. They want a form saying that you're homeschooling. They also want to mandate specific requirements, curriculum mandates, specific curriculum. They want to mandate that on our homeschool educators. And this is just so sad. Tara Costa Howard, she's a Democrat from Grand Island. This is from the Center Square. State Representative Brandon Schweizer, a Republican from Danville. He said that the proposed regulations from Tara Costa Howard are a direct infringement on parental rights. He says, quote, "This legislation is being sold as protection of children measure, but in reality, it's just placing unnecessary burden on families and on our education system here in Illinois. Because let's not forget the school districts. Like, we already have so much bureaucratic bloat, and really probably what this is actually about is trying to get more administrators in there to process these forms and to double check the curriculums of these homeschool families. And it's about getting more friends into these jobs, these administrative roles, and getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in a form of a salary, and then later in the form of a pension. We talked about Barry Riley, the former superintendent, over $200,000 in a pension that he's getting, and then he wants to raise taxes. Why? Because he wants to make sure his pension is there and stays there, because we are in a pension crisis here in the state of Illinois. I don't think I have to tell you that. We have a huge pension liability. I don't even know what it's at right now, billions of dollars. But so they want to protect their pensions. They want to protect their salaries. And really what this is probably about is creating new jobs within the school district to process these new forms so they can get hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxpayer money to, I don't know, infringe on the rights of parents. Take a listen to this. Here we go.
Ambassadors who are our future leaders. They represent thousands of students who are at the Capitol today.
This legislation is infringement on those rights. Not only does House Bill 2827 create new mandates and new regulations, but is a start of a slippery slope. It starts by making small changes, and like most policies here in Illinois, it keeps chipping away more and more from homeschool families.
The homeschool growth is tremendous in Illinois. And so a lot of families are finding individual reasons to remove their children from the public school environment, violence and bullying being one of those issues.
Illinois has plenty of challenges. We all know that. It's not a secret. We watch the news. But homeschooling is frankly not one of those challenges. It's not a problem. It's a solution.
Boom. All right. So the proposed regulations would also require homeschool families, declare that they are homeschooling to their local districts. So they have to do a form and they have to say, hey, we're homeschooling. That used to not be a thing. And Illinois traditionally has been very, very chill when it comes to homeschooling. Like, there's very little laws about homeschooling, which is great. And if they fail to do so, if they fail to notify that their local school district that they're homeschooling, guess what? The kid is going to be considered truant, and you're probably going to get slapped with cuffs, probably a knock on your door from the police officers. Where's your kid at? So hundreds of homeschool families, according to the Center Square, descended on the state capitol during homeschool lobby day. And I like how Regan Deering, she's from the area here, Republican. She's recently, she's a freshman lawmaker. She says, quote, "There's no reason to enact legislation to fix a problem that simply doesn't exist. And I would encourage my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to talk with hundreds of parents and students walking our hallways today before moving forward with these new regulations." Yeah, I mean, there's bullying, there's all kinds of terrible things that are going on in these schools. And homeschooling is a solution, not a problem. Travis Weaver, state representative Republican from Edwards, said the benefits of homeschooling are numerous, including freedom that parents have to educate their children according to the values that they hold dear. He says, unfortunately, some of Illinois politicians are trying to wrap homeschooling in red tape. Illinois has plenty of challenges, but homeschooling, frankly, is not one of those challenges. Okay, it's not a problem, it's a solution. All right, I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. We're going to be right back, and I'm going to get to Dylan Mulvaney. Dylan Mulvaney is saying that he is a woman, despite what his passport says. Okay, I am a woman, despite what my passport says. I'll be right back with that next. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Good morning, Lisa. It always brings me a smile, brings a smile to my face when you say good morning. Fish pee, totally healthy. My government told me so. Yeah. Essentially, that's what you're drinking. You're drinking lake water. Okay, safe to drink. They say that, right? But it still tastes really bad, and the odor is awful. And essentially, what you're doing is you're drinking lake water, because as that water gets lower and lower, that's the filtration doesn't work as well. They put more filters online, so they're addressing the issue, but they're also kind of flying by the seam of their pants here, in that they are doing all these quick fixes, and quick fixes rack up over time. So, for example, I got some home improvements here. Say your sink is leaking, right? And you change the sink, you change the pipes a little bit. Okay, say you have a clog, okay, and you're doing Drano or something like that, and buckets of Drano that you're using, right? It racks up over a period of time. $25 here, $25 there, $25. And by the end of it, you've spent, $50 on Drano, and then you didn't fix the actual problem, which your drain had a clog, right? You've spent the $50 and now you have to spend on the permanent solution, which is the drain. You have to replace the drain or the piping. Okay. So that's where we're at with Bloomington. It's like they're doing all these quick fixes, trying to throw as much Drano down the sink as they can, without replacing the piping that actually it would solve the problem. Okay, so that's where we're at with the Bloomington water situation. Love the comment, Chris. You're hilarious. They want to make Bloomington normal, little Chicago. She needs to get out, and you're referring to the master's in communication gal, I forget her name, that spoke at the Bloomington City Council meeting. She needs to get out and get a job. Now, she claims that she has 4 or 5 jobs, okay? And I totally believe her that she can't pay for rent. But here's the problem. She continues to vote for people. I don't know what exactly her voting record is. I'm willing to bet, though, that she voted all Democrat this year. And those same Democrats are the reason why she's got this problem, this rent problem. Okay. I'm not saying that the rent isn't high. I'm not saying that it's not okay that she has 4 or 5 part-time jobs. She says that a lot of her jobs were part-time jobs. I'm not doubting that she's working hard, making money, and it's just going all right to rent. I don't doubt that at all, and I'm sad, but you are contributing to your demise in that the Democrats are creating that problem on purpose because they're trying to get their corporate buddies in here, the corporate landlords in here, to make all of the money in the state. They're doing everything they can to burden small landlords, to phase them out. And it's something as silly as, not charging a processing fee, not being able to charge a processing fee, and then they're going to raise your rents. Okay. Not being able to charge a modest fee. Okay. All of my apartments I've ever had, it was like a couple of bucks. They're just going to throw that onto the rent. Okay. So that's why your rent keeps going up. Another reason would be, and the rent, like, then they're going to be gouging you. Okay. So if they're raising your rent, by $1, every month, they try to cover that processing fee. Then you're going to be paying way more. And there's, I don't doubt that there are some landlords that, practice this gouging, and they take advantage of people, but, there's multiple, now they have to take counterfeit checks, okay, or checks, and those could be counterfeit, or they have to take cash, and that could be fake money, okay, and then they have to deal with going to lawsuits, going and filing a lawsuit against somebody, and they're going to raise your rent to deal with that. Okay, they're going to raise the rent on you in order to deal with that because these people are business owners. They've got families to feed as well. They're not going to pay your rent for you. Okay, because guess what? Housing isn't a right. They've got to pay their housing costs as well, and nobody's paying it for them. So why would they pay it for you? They've entered into this to make money. Okay. If you don't like it, then enter into real estate and make money off of it. Okay, number one. Number two, like I said, it's these little nickel and diming mandates, like the emergency radio in mobile homes. Like, what the hell is that? You know what I mean? Like, you're going to make me put a $30 radio in a mobile home? Why? Everybody has a cell phone, number one. Number two, if you want an emergency radio, then just buy one yourself as a tenant. Why are you forcing me to do it? So now he's got to go out and buy 30 emergency radios if he's got 30, mobile homes in his mobile home park. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. Man, we've covered so much ground today. A couple of more local things, and then I'm going to get to Dylan Mulvaney, I promise. Illinois legislators, they're at each other's throats, according to the Center Square, after President Donald Trump's speech to the to Congress. He addressed Congress last week. Okay, so he talked about closing the border, ending the war on Ukraine, cutting taxes, imposing tariffs on foreign countries to make trade more fair. Okay, like I said, Canada, they're subsidizing their lumber, they're dumping their lumber here, and American lumber companies can't compete. That takes away jobs from us. And it doesn't do wonders for our housing crisis, okay, that we have in the country. So Donald Trump, he's done so much already, so much good. Stellantis in Belvidere, Illinois. I don't know what the conversations were. I wasn't privy to the conversations that he had with the CEO. The CEO was visiting with him for a few days. They have a Belvidere plant that has been or was closed down for several years. During the Biden administration, okay? So as soon as the Biden administration came in, they closed down the Stellantis plant, and then they started building out in Brazil a new plant and expanding that plant out in Brazil. And I'd imagine the conversations kind of went like this. Trump was playing, 12-dimensional chess, and he was playing hardball with the guy, which is great. And he said, hey, don't build out your Brazil plant. Invest in the Stellantis Belvidere, Illinois plant, open it back up. Otherwise, we're going to impose pretty heavy tariffs on you. Guess what he does? The Stellantis CEO, he opens up the Belvidere plant. Okay, this is awesome because that's 2,000 plus jobs for Illinoisans. Good jobs. So, I think it's hilarious that you got State Representative Katie Stewart here, a Democrat from Edwardsville. She said that Donald Trump's actions are rattling the stock market and they're hurting Illinois families and their saving accounts, which is just so funny because, I just told you a story about how Donald Trump is helping Illinois families, getting them back to work here in the state. 2,000 plus jobs he added because of this 12-dimensional chess he's playing. So take a listen here to this clip. Here we go.
If just 2 of those Republican congresspeople decided to actually do their job, if they decided to make Congress work as a co-equal branch of government again, we could actually stop the things that are crashing our markets. We could stop raising prices on families, and we could stop erasing retirement savings before they happen. And the best part is, I'm just asking you to hold Donald Trump to the same standards you've held every other president to. It only requires you to apply the same logic today that you cited during his first term. The words and actions of the president matter. They have real consequences for our families, and we need to speak honestly about what the Trump agenda is actually doing instead of fantasizing about what we wish it were accomplishing. We're not...
I wish it were accomplishment. I just told you, a major accomplishment for Illinois families, opening up that Belvidere plant.
This isn't 12-dimensional chess. This isn't playing hardball with trading partners. This is playing with working people who put their trust in the markets and try to build a safe and secure retirement.
We're not concerned about President Trump one bit. In fact, we're proud of President Trump, and we're glad that he got elected to save this state and this country from the radical left path that it was on that was destroying our country. We're proud of President Trump because we've lived through it. We've lived through before the China virus, when President Trump brought out record employment in this country, rising wages for everybody, and especially for those in the minority communities, lower taxes for everybody. Energy dominance around the world, lower utility bills, no endless stupid wars that defy American interest. That's a record of success. That's a record that we're proud of and we'll stand by every day. And for you over there on the left, if you're concerned about tariffs, if you want to end tariffs, how about we start building things in Illinois? How about we start building things in America? All right? That's what that's all about. But we can't build anything in Illinois. We can't build anything in Illinois because you guys have you've destroyed our economy with your massive regulations, with your massive taxes on everybody, on businesses, and on families and everything else.
These are our children we're talking about.
Okay, so I wanted to play some of that. That was State Representative Dylan Mulvaney told the majority Democrats at the State House complaining about the Trump administration to clean up their own house. He says, we can't build anything in Illinois because you guys have destroyed the economy with your massive regulation, with massive taxes on everybody and on businesses and families. Yeah, and then they talked about gender ideology as well. Kelly Cassidy, she's a Democrat from Chicago, criticized Republicans for focusing on the issue. She said, quote, these are our children we're talking about. You are making targets out of our kids. You are driving children to suicide. You know, and I love how Bill Howder, Republican here from Morton, Illinois, he's a medical doctor, and he responded to this woman, Kelly Cassidy, according to the Center Square. Here's the quote. These are the facts. This is evidence, not feelings. Please stop these harmful surgeries in Illinois medicine. And he cited surgeries that gender surgeries and medical procedures actually cause suicidal ideation. And all the studies I've ever seen, it shows that there is suicidal ideation post-op, pre-op, and there is a major suicide crisis amongst the trans community. And the best thing that we can do for these kids is tell them the truth and love them and say, hey, no, little Timmy, you are not a girl. You are not Tammy. Okay, that's the best thing we can do for them. That's how they're not going to kill themselves. So Kelly Cassidy, she fired back, and she cited all kinds of studies that adolescents with gender dysphoria, after they get the medical procedure, which is just not true, are less likely to commit suicide. Think about that. No. And look into the medical procedures, okay? They take pieces of skin from their arm. It's very hard to recover from these surgeries. You never quite recover ever from these surgeries. That brings me to Dylan Mulvaney. I'm going to get there. On the other side of this break, he's saying he's a woman no matter what his passport says, okay? However, according to biological reality, he's a man, despite his ambiguous feeling that he might feel deep down inside. Okay, so Mulvaney is back. Dylan Mulvaney, this is the guy that Bud Light signed that ambassador deal with. Okay, that transgender guy. He's back, and he's doing this media tour because he's got this new book out, and it's called Paper Doll: Notes from a Late Bloomer. According to the Amazon description of his book, it's dedicated to the honest account of her journey through girlhood. Okay, this is just so weird. It's a fetish. He, talks about how like he's a grown man and he's going through puberty, I guess, and that's what he talks about. His account of journeying through this puberty, essentially by taking hormones, nose jobs, things like that. And he's slandering conservatives on this media tour after he's released this book. So we're going to be right back with a clip from Dylan Mulvaney saying, I'm a woman despite what my passport says. I'll be right back. Hey, good morning. Go ahead and smash that like button. Smash it. I see you watching. Go ahead and smash that like button. Share this out with your friends. For your perversion fixes. What do you mean? Dude, I'm literally spouting out facts right now, okay? Go look it up, the medical procedures. They take arm skin, like skin from your arm, to create genitals. Like, this is such a weird procedure to begin with, and you never medically recover from it. Just talk to people who have gone through it. I forget his name. I think his name is Scott. I'll have to look it up, but there's a guy who went through all of this, and he's featured in that documentary, Daily Wire documentary, What is a Woman? And he talks about the medical procedure and how how she never recovered. And they took like skin from him, and he got infection, and he never truly recovered from the surgery, and like lives in constant pain. And when you live in constant pain like that, of course, you're going to have suicidal ideation. Okay. I don't care what studies you cite. Anytime you go through a procedure that is proven not to work, or is proven not to have a recovery period where you actually recover and you're in constant pain the rest of your life, suicide rates go up. I mean, that's just the hard truth, man. I don't know how that's perverted. That's just the truth, and I'm just speaking facts, man. Let's talk a little bit about some other things I want to get to. AOC, she got nailed with an ethics complaint and it has to do with her dancing, which is kind of funny. So Americans for Public Trust, this is a nonprofit organization, and they're dedicated to government accountability. And they found out that AOC may or may not have been spending money on dancing classes. Yes, with taxpayer money. Okay. So AOC may have made or may have violated federal law and standards of the House of Representatives. This is what the Americans for Public Trust, they say that there are several troubling expenses. And according to Fox News, this nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, it's called Public Trust, they sent a letter to the Office of Congressional Ethics, the OCE, questioning the troubling expenses from AOC's disbursements, okay? And they claim that they are in violation of federal law and standards of the House of Representatives. So reportedly, she made a payment of $3,700 to Juan D. Gonzalez and another for $850 to a Bombonzo Dance Company Incorporated, with both expenditures described as used for training. Okay, so this is really peculiar. She's dancing, training. Why would you be paying a dance company for training as a representative? Okay, now here's how it works. You get taxpayer money to run your office, and those office duties, that money is set for office duties only, and you can't use it for personal and you can't use it for campaign purposes. Okay. However, this squad member, AOC, has been accused of using this for campaign purposes or for training, dance training, which is really weird. $850 we're paying for her dance classes, which is just bizarre to me. Reportedly, okay? Now, this is probably going to be investigated through the Office of Congressional Ethics, but we'll have to see what comes of it. And she's not a good dancer. Surprisingly, she dances all of the time. AOC. Now, I've met AOC in person. Very, very tiny woman. I heckled her on the street. Guilty. I was wearing my MAGA hat, and a couple of my buddies and I heckled her. Like we said, what was it at the time? At the time when I was in Washington, D.C., and I saw AOC on the street, there was a big thing with Cuba and communism, and they were fleeing communism. And she's pro-communism, pro-socialism. So I was heckling her about, the Cubans and how they're fleeing communism. And I wanted her to speak out against the Cuban regime, the communist regime. And I kept asking her questions about the dictator, right, in Cuba at the time. This was a while ago. It feels like yesterday, but she's a very tiny woman, by the way. Like, I was shocked at how tiny AOC is. She's like literally, I don't know, like I thought she was 4 feet tall. She's so small. I'm pretty tall for being a girl. I would say I'm 5'7", something like that. She came up to my chest probably, or my shoulder. So I was like, you're really, really small. So we're going to talk about AOC ethics. She was slapped with an ethics complaint, possibly paying for dance classes. And she's caught on video dancing a lot of the time. And let's just say this, those dance classes are not paying off. And she probably needs a refund. I'm back. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 News and Talk Bloomington Normal. So I do appreciate you tuning in this morning. Yes, Dylan Mulvaney. Oh, Dylan Mulvaney. He is writing this book. It's called Paper Doll: Notes from a Late Bloomer. Okay, this is just so annoying to me, because it's just like, being a woman, this is deeply, deeply offensive. You've got a grown man here saying that he went through girlhood or went through puberty. obviously you didn't. It was manufactured through hormones. And in this Amazon description of his book, he says that the book is dedicated to the honest account of her journey through girlhood. Okay, so let's take a listen. Here we go. Here's Dylan Mulvaney ripping on conservatives while he's on this media tour. This was on CBS. This is not a serious network. Here we go.
Who belong in the loony bin.
It resulted in a lot of suicidal ideation and dissociation. I'm still battling with some of that guilt and that shame and that dysphoria that was projected onto me during that time. And that was a situation that I wouldn't have wished on my worst enemy now that I've lived through it.
Mulvaney says she never wanted to be an activist, but has found herself navigating a society that's not always supportive of trans rights.
On his first day in office, President Trump signed the order which recognized two sexes, male and female. When you heard that pronouncement, what did you think?
It didn't change any way that I think about myself because I'm a woman no matter what my passport says. We are not hurting anyone. We're less than 1% of the population. And the way that they speak about us so often is as if we're like taking over cities like Godzilla. We're just being our authentic selves.
The Trump administration has also tried to ban gender-affirming care for people under the age of 19. A federal court has blocked that for now.
And what do you say to those who do question gender-affirming care, believing that it could be irreversible and lead to problems later in life, even cause regrets?
I don't have the lived experience of a trans child that was able to seek out that care. But I ultimately do believe that parents know their child better than a government does. We should let those families figure out what is best for them.
Okay. I wanted to share that with you. That's Dylan Mulvaney. I can already tell that the book paints him as some sort of victim despite profiting off of mocking women. Remember, he was the Bud Light ambassador. He also attempts to portray here the Bud Light backlash as if he was the one in danger and like his life was in danger because a bunch of people said, we're not buying Bud Light anymore. Your life was never in danger, pal. We just said, yeah, we're not buying Bud Light anymore because this was a poor marketing decision. And I have a hard time believing that you were in danger because of that boycott. So the interviewer points out that Trump's first policy, one of his first policy initiatives nationally, was to recognize that there's two sexes. Now, Mulvaney claimed that this change has nothing to do with what he thinks about himself, and I don't think he realizes, but his actions align with Donald Trump's policy. He believes that there's two genders because he chose to be a woman and he physically transitioned, which proves that, gender and sex are correlated and they're not two different things. And if they were two different things, there would be no need for Mulvaney to get the plastic surgery to make him look more feminine. Okay, so he obviously believes there's two sexes. Otherwise, he wouldn't have physically changed. So he actually agrees. Clearly, by his actions, he agrees with Donald Trump's policy that there's two sexes. So he also brings about a good point here that the trans community is only like barely a fraction of the population. Now it's growing, but that's why it makes no sense to change the status quo. Okay, so the status quo has always been, we recognize two genders. We never allowed this kind of stuff for kids in the past. It was always a very small portion of the population. And once you turn 18, you can do whatever the heck you want. That was the status quo. But now we're changing everything. We're destroying female sports under the guise of inclusivity, right? And when you start changing every aspect of life to appease the 1% of the population, you're excluding large parts of the majority. So there has also been countless times where parents thought transitioning their children would be the best course of action, and it turns out they regret it. There's these individuals who are called detransitioners. We talked about the medical procedures, how nobody really recovers from the medical procedures. They take skin from different parts of your body in order to create genitalia. Like that, I'm just being honest with you. That's I'm not trying to be perverted in any kind of way. I'm just being honest with you with what that medical procedure looks like. And detransitioners talk about this all the time, that they regret going through this as a child because now there is no such thing as recovery from those medical procedures and surgeries. And now they're living with constant pain and misery, and suicidal ideation increases post-op, because you're going through so much physical pain and you're in constant physical pain. And I don't know when Mulvaney became some sort of authority figure on transgender issues. Okay, I have no idea why. But no one should be giving consent on behalf of children for them to be mutilated. Okay, because that's what these surgeries are. You take skins and different body parts and then you put them in a different area. Like, it's mutilation, and these are medically unnecessary surgeries. And the parents should not be the ones consenting. Like, even if they were like, I can consent, I guess, as a parent to, have my child go run out in the street and in highway traffic, I guess, but I don't have a right to do that as a parent because I'm going to kill my child, okay, or I'm going to severely hurt my child. There is no such thing as parental consent when it causes physical mutilation or damage or harm to the child, physical harm. That said, Mulvaney, you're a man. Okay, and you always will be a man, despite whatever document affirms you or whatever. You're always going to be a man. It is what it is. So I got to take a quick break. We're going to get to AOC because she's got an ethics complaint against her, and I want to get to that before the end of the show. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Hey, go ahead and smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I so do appreciate you tuning in. Real quick, we talked about the Bloomington City Council earlier today. I am going to get to AOC, I promise. So AOC has an ethics complaint lodged against her because of some finance issues where she was caught spending money on something that probably she shouldn't be spending money on. So we're going to get to that. But first, the Bloomington City Council, since Donna Boland's resignation, the city needs a new representative on the Behavioral Health Council. The mayor picked Sheila Montney. Molly Ward tried to table the vote, but didn't get a second. Next, Molly, Cody Hendrick, and Jenna Kearns voted against the appointment, against Sheila Montney, and they didn't say why. Sheila didn't vote, and John Danberger was remote. John Danberger, and the rest of the council voted yes. So she is now the representative on the behavioral health. I don't understand why they wouldn't vote for Sheila Montney. She is the most educated person on that council. She's very, very smart. And I don't think that we politically align like 100%, but this woman is so quick, and she is very quick on her feet, and is I think she's borderline genius. Okay, Sheila Montney, she's very, very smart. When you get to sit down and have a conversation with her, and she is now the representative. Now, I guess the rumor, according to BLN News, was that they wanted Cody Hendricks to be appointed. Now, that must mean they believe that he isn't going to be winning the mayor's race. Now, he's running for mayor. I don't think that he's going to win either. I really do think that Dan Brady will win. He's just a very good politician. And, I think, quite frankly, that's what's best for Bloomington. I do think that he's going to be able to fix the water. If he's running on that, I think that he's going to fix it. And that's going to be a win for Bloomington. I definitely don't agree with Dan Brady 100% politically either, but I think best choice, it has to be, right? He's running on the water. He's the only one who hasn't really been involved, I guess, with this water issue. Now, he was a state legislator for the area for quite some time. But he wasn't directly involved with not getting those drilling those wells and making sure that that PAC system was online always and treating the water was always a priority. He wasn't directly involved in that. Cody Hendrick himself took responsibility for the water issue. I don't know if they think that he's not going to win because the mayor can't also hold this representative seat, the Behavioral Health Council. Okay. And the three didn't say why they would object to Sheila. So I don't know why they would object to Sheila and who else they wanted to sit in that seat, the behavioral health seat. There's so much that happened at the Bloomington council meeting, but we are going to get to AOC. I want to make sure I get to that here on the other side. Go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. AOC, she's getting nailed with the ethics complaint. She's got an ethics complaint against her because apparently she's spending taxpayer dollars on dance classes. So Americans for Public Trust, this is a nonprofit, nonpartisan. They're dedicated to government accountability here. And this is really interesting because we've got, so this is really interesting because they sent a letter to the Office of Congressional Ethics questioning some very troubling expenses from AOC's disbursements. And they say it's a violation of federal law and it breaks standards of the House of Representatives. Okay, so each member of Congress, they receive an allowance. It's called an MRA, member representational allowance, to run their offices, okay, buy staplers or whatever they need. And it's not to be for personal use or campaign use purposes, okay? Now, the squad member, AOC, it looks like she made a payment to $3,700 to Juan D. Gonzalez and $850 to Bombanzo Dance Company. Okay, so these are expenditures, and they were marked as training. Okay, she reportedly made these payments, and they said it's for training. And it's for dance classes. Okay, that's what it looks like. I'm sure that the OOC or OCE, the Office of Congressional Ethics, is going to be looking into this. But now, one thing about AOC is that she's not a very good dancer at all. So this is actually her. You guys can watch it on the stream. You can't really see her dance moves. You can hear the protesters though in her district. They're saying, no AOC, down with it. Like, we don't want AOC anymore. And then she's there kind of like dancing to the chants of her constituents who are saying, like, we don't want you anymore. So take a listen to this. Here we go. So they say AOC has got to go, and she's like over on this stage, and she's like dancing to their chanting. And look, folks, I mean, she is denied spending taxpayer funds on dance classes. Her dance moves alone, okay, they're just displayed for you, are grounds for an ethics complaint because that was just terrible to watch. So she's a corrupt politician who still can't dance. And I don't know, they're going to investigate this. And that's not a ton of money, but folks, we shouldn't be paying for anybody to be getting dance classes, okay? That's just not something we should be doing. All right, I want to shift gears. Let's talk about the Bloomington City Council meeting, a little bit more from that meeting. Earlier in the show, we talked about the water situation. Dan Brady made a comment. He said, hey, $755,000 for this additional equipment that we probably can't use right away. That equipment won't be ready for about a year. This feels like a lot of like quick fixes, and I make the comparison to, my sink, right? I bought a bunch of Drano and I started pouring Drano down the sink because it wasn't like draining. And I bought like a 25, I don't know how much Drano it was, $25 or something like that of Drano. And I kept using the Drano, and I was like, okay, I think that this is working, and it's quick fixes. But really what was the problem was this drain. I had to replace the piping underneath the sink. So there's got to be a more cost-effective way to go about this water thing. So we talked about that. We talked about, this ISU master's communication woman. She was a lady there saying that she couldn't afford rent, and really, she's probably contributing to her own demise. Okay, that's what leftists do. They contribute to their own demise in that they vote for the leftists that continue to force these small landlords to eat all kinds of cost and are regulated into oblivion. And that's why they're raising your rent. And the reason why they're doing that to small landlords is because they want their preferred landlords, which is BlackRock and these global invested companies, to come in, and they want those guys to make all the money in the state of Illinois, and they want to eliminate the competition, these landlords, and that's why they impose these mandates and regulations on them. So we talked about that with the Bloomington City Council, but also I want to get to this. Sheila Montney, congratulations. She's sitting on the Behavioral Health Council now. So since Donna Boland's resignation, the city needed a new representative on this council. The mayor picked Sheila Montney, and I'm telling you, Sheila is very, very smart. Maybe we don't agree politically on everything, but she is probably the smartest person on that council. I'm telling you right now, she is quick. She is now going to serve on that council, and Molly Ward tried to table the vote during this council meeting. According to BLN News, she did not get a second. Next, Molly, Cody, and Jenna Kearns. Jenna Kearns, the one who doesn't stand for the pledge, by the way. They all voted against the appointment of Sheila, and they didn't say why. Now, Sheila didn't vote, and John Dannenberger was remote, and the rest of the council voted yes. He and the rest of the council, John Dannenberger, voted yes, and now she's the representative. Okay, so I don't know who they wanted. Okay, Jenna Kearns, Cody, and Molly. I don't know who they wanted to serve on that seat. Maybe they wanted Cody, and if that's the case, then they don't believe he's going to win the mayoral's race. Now, Cody really shot himself kind of in the foot here, in my opinion, because he took responsibility for the water. And I applaud that, because that's accountability, something that I was not expecting to see from leftist. But he took accountability, and he said, yeah, we take responsibility for that. Members of the council take responsibility, because really 20 years ago, they reduced costs by getting rid of the treatment, the PAC treatment, which is just wild to me. And like I said, they're kind of going about this all the wrong way. They should really be focused on a permanent fix to this, and not like $15,000, $20,000 every week to try to treat the water with the powdered carbon. I think that there's a better way to go about this. So I don't know. Maybe they thought he isn't going to win the mayoral's race. I don't know. There's three right now: Mboka and Cody and Dan Brady running in the Bloomington race. There's also Kathleen Lorenz, Chris Coos, and Kimberly Harris. They're all running for the normal mayoral race. Okay, and this election is it's ongoing. You can vote early, and it's going to be on April 1st. Okay, so I got to go. I appreciate you being here. Be sure to find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Subscribe to the channel. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning. So do appreciate you being here. Have a blessed day and be safe out there. And hey, go out there and chop down some trees that you need to get chopped down, because we're expecting severe weather on Friday, and I'd hate to see a tree, fall on the house, garage, car. If the tree's coming down anyway, just get out there today. It's going to be nice. Get the chainsaw and chop it up. All right. You guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye.